Okay, good evening, everybody. On behalf of Gyanadab, I welcome all of you today for yet another session on Gyanpedia. Today we have Apurva Bahadur, who is bringing us the Upper Bhor Ghat. Few months back, we had done the program on the Lower Bhor Ghat, how the railway line was created between Pune and Bombay, a very important lifeline between Bombay and Pune. I think it's around about 1865 or something, if an Apurva will correct me. Till then, what is to happen, how people used to travel between Pune and Bombay, and how the line was built. This is all that Apurva will tell us. Last time he told us something about the first 9 or 7 kilometers from Khopoli to some point in the Ghat, and then today he's going to take us through that journey after that. Apurva, welcome to you, and you need no introduction. And Mr. Apurva Bahadur is an ardent rail fan, and he has spent hours and hours and days in the hinterlands, in the ghats, to photograph the beautiful railway system of India, and amazing photographs that he has done. I request you all to please pay attention for 1 hour. After the program, we'll be having a question answer session. And Apurva, during a particular time, if you can give me 30 seconds, I would like to introduce Nityasha Foundation and reassert what Gyanadab is all about. I leave it to you when you want to do that. Just tell me, and we will.
Okay, we'll do that. Welcome to this presentation about the Upper Bhor Ghat. This is a rail fans or railway enthusiast perspective of this important transportation link of India. I would take a second to welcome Sudhanshi Manuji, JL Singh sir, Rajendra Prasad Saxena sir, Ashish Kuelkar. They are my people who have made my life what it is today. And the first three are from railways. Ajay Singh, who had done a presentation for Gyanadab about water conservation, would have been here, but he is not here. But welcome to everybody. And what I had initially planned to do when we were doing it is we wanted to make a presentation on the entire Bhor Ghat. But as we were doing research, we found out, why do I keep saying we? Because it's not one person. Apurva Bahadur alone can't do anything. You need the friends who are as equally, if not more crazy than I am, to be able to do what you're about to see. And so this may be my presentation, but the work involved is many people, and they are all there. I won't acknowledge them because of the paucity of time, but without their help and without their support, I will not be able to do where I am, and I'll not be where I am today. And Ashish Kuelkar, one of my fellow railway enthusiasts, is here. And a lot of things that you see are initialized by him. So let's take this forward. So initially, like I told you, I was planning to do one presentation, but then as we were doing research, a lot of juicy details started emerging, and we said that this is not worth it. And then it turns out that we have enough material to do maybe 5, maybe even 6 presentations about the Bhor Ghat, which is only a 27-kilometer section, but very important section. So previously, I had done a small presentation about the Lower Bhor Ghat, which is the first 8 kilometers from Karjat side. And now today we are going to talk about the Upper Bhor Ghat, which is Lonavala to Monkey Hill and stuff like that. So what you see here is a view of viaducts which were made in 1850s, 1860s. And this is the Yashwantpur Barmer AC Express. And this is a view across the Ullas River Valley. So left-hand side of this view is Monkey Hill, and right-hand side of this view is Thakurwadi Cabin. So this is one of the views that you will get if you go across the valley. We'll just start with an overview. First of all, a Ghat section is a word which is a mountain pass, which allows you to go from one altitude to another. So this is the visual challenge of the Bhor Ghats. What you see here is Khopoli, which is at 60 meters altitude from the sea level. And what you see up there is the end, not even the end, the say almost the end of Bhor Ghats. It is this point is even lower than Khandala, and Khandala is still 60-70 meters below Lonavala, which is the top section. So this is the old highway through Khapoli, and what you see on the top is this Bhor Ghat reversing station. Now this image is from 2014, but since then, for the sake of highway expansion, this heritage structure, this absolute gem of structure that we had was demolished in the middle of COVID, so nobody could file an application against it. If a person who doesn't understand civil engineering like me can show you the path of a road around the structure, being a heritage structure, it cannot be demolished. But they had to run the highway through one of the arches, and that space was obviously not sufficient. Any width of highway you build today is going to be insufficient in a very few years' time. So this structure was sadly demolished. And that's the sort of view that I want to show you with this. So the challenge is to take a train from this altitude to that altitude in 27 kilometers. And so like I told you, that end of the ghat is another 145 meters up. So it's a huge climb that it has to do. Here is a small, it's a sort of stick map of the section that we are talking about. From Mumbai, you come from Kalyan, there are two tracks which come to Karjat. Karjat is a junction in the sense one track goes to Panvel, which goes into Konkan Railways. You have three tracks in the ghat. So what happens is the ghat consists of two very large mountains which bifurcate the track. Now, from Karjat, the track goes to a place called Palasdhari. This is where the proper ghat starts. And from Palasdhari, one track, single track goes to Khapoli. And in India, this was the oldest track. Initially, the trains used to go to Khapoli, and then from Palki, palanquins, some animal, you could ride on a horse or a pony, and then you had to reach Khandala. And from Khandala, the train would restart, and then you could go back. So this section was a huge challenge because the gradient is very much, and it was an uncharted territory in 1850s, 1860s when the ghat was constructed. And so what I'm trying to show you is from Palasdhari, the train reaches a place called Jambrung Kebin, JBC. And then these are the old tracks which go on the north face of this mountain, which is called Natsa Dongar. And there is another mountain called Bheran Plateau with Bhedachi Tekdi. And the two old tracks, these are the tracks which were laid in 1860s. They go to a cabin called Thakurwadi. And these two tracks, one track is the down track and the other one is the up track. Now in railway parlance, the down train is the one which is going away from the headquarters. So in case of our railways, headquarters is Mumbai. So a train which is climbing with full throttle is actually the down train, and a train which has got screaming brakes and smoke coming out from its brake blocks and all that is the up train. So this is the down track, this is the up track. And so from Thakurwadi, it goes to a cabin called Monkey Hill. Monkey Hill, it goes to your familiar Khandala, which everybody knows. And then it goes to Lonavala. This is the end of the ghat. And then again, these three tracks become two tracks and goes towards Pune. Around 1980, to increase.
Yeah, Apurva,
yes, sir.
Can you just point it with your
laser? I'll do that. I'll just do
yeah.
That. From Monkey Hill, in around 1980s, another single track was constructed via Nagnath Cabin, and that goes on the southern flank of these two mountains, and it merges at Jamrung Cabin. So this is the topology, the stick map of the of this ghat. One thing I want to tell you is that this track which I've shown in this direction is actually a bi-directional track. So you can, the mid line as we call it, because this is the line that runs in the middle of the three lines, is bi-directional. The one on the left mostly is the track which is used for climbing trains, which are the down trains. And some trains use this track to come towards Mumbai. And some trains take this track on the, so it depends on the congestion. It depends on the load of the train. This gradient is slightly longer and is slightly gentler. So freight trains are typically sent on this single track. What I've shown you here in dotted line is something called a service tunnel. Now, Nagnath is a section isolated by itself, and there's a tunnel from which you can walk from Nagnath to Thakurwadi. And this is one of the things which is in front of everybody's eyes, but it's not visible. Actually, it's not in front of your eyes because it's at the top of the mountain, but I'll just show you the views later in the presentation. So this section is used by about 125 trains every single day, day and night, through all the seasons. So it's very important because it connects Mumbai to Pune and then onwards to all the southern important cities. Some trains go further to Bhubaneswar. From Mumbai, Bhubaneswar trains go via Hyderabad, Secunderabad. So they take this train. And so this is very important for the connectivity of the country, the Bhor Ghat. I want to talk about gradient. And so we want to talk about the challenge of the gradient because you need to climb a path. You're from 60 meters, you're going to travel to 600 and something meters height in 27 kilometers. And the problem is that you have steel on steel. So steel on steel, steel wheels, steel rails, the coefficient of friction is very low. So while it is rolling, it's a good thing because once a train starts moving, it needs very little power. You know, it is one of the probably the most efficient form of land-based transportation. The most efficient would be obviously sea transportation, where the coefficient of friction is very low between the ship and the water. But as far as land is concerned, if you have steel and steel, it's fantastic because there is no friction and the train can roll for kilometers if the speed is achieved. This is a view from an old GIPR map. I've enlarged part of it, but I can show you. You can see this thing. This is Kalyan Junction here. And till Karjat to Palasdari also, it's not much of a thing. Here, I'll show you this thing. And then the climb starts. And then what you see 50, 40, 40, 42, 40 are the gradient. That means 1 in 40 or 1 in 42, which means that every 42 units of length, 1 unit you are going to climb or descend. Ghat is not only climbing, you also have to bring trains down this gradient safely. So that is also a challenge. If not, actually it could be more of a challenge. But there are systems developed over years together. We have learned a lot from accidents or near accidents, and then we have implemented a set of systems. The railways have implemented a set of systems which has helped to do that. One curious thing, while I was working on this map, I realized that Lonavala is some 628 meters or something in height. This place, which is near Kane is Vadgaon. It's between Vadgaon and Kamshet, is actually taller than Lonavala. Now, this is an old map from 1920 somethings. I would have to get a newer version of this map, but it's interesting that the highest point on this line is not Lonavala, but further towards in Mawad Taluka. Okay. Now coming to the proper railways, this is a BTPN train, which is a tanker rake, and it is ending its climb at Khandala. This is the tanker, and this guy is climbing, and it is being pushed from the rear by another 3 locomotives. And as is customary in all Indian railways, you have a flag exchange between the crew and the station master on one side, and on the other side there's another guy who's exchanging flag. Now what these guys are doing, they're looking at the train, they're looking at whether you have any unusual sounds, when you have any unusual smells. Do you find that one wagon has become slightly tilted, means it could have derailed or a suspension element could have failed. They're looking at the safe running of the train in their section. They're also looking at the rear end. You have a LV sign or you have a red light. So once they sight that, that means that that entire train has come into the section. There is no train which has parted and part of the train has rolled away or something like that. So while this train is passing through the station, number of people will exchange flags, and at the rear of the train is a guard who will be exchanging the flag. And because this is a gradient, it is also being pushed by locomotive, which we'll talk about later. And in the locomotive is three sets of crews and three people who are also exchanging flags. So it goes on, flag during the night and green lamp in the night, in the flag in the day and green lamp in the night. And the driver and the guard also exchange flag throughout the journey. At every curve, the driver would look back and the guard would look in the front. They know where are the curves, important places, curves, bridges, ghat sections, viaducts. They look at the train from the front and back and they check that the train looks okay. And they exchange flags or they exchange the green signal with each other. And the crew concur, yes, gadi barabar, or the train is okay. So they're also checking that there is no visible smoke or one coach doesn't look tilted or something like that. Or there, So safety is the cornerstone of Indian Railways, and Indian Railways is the system where everything has a rule number and everything runs as per that rule. And these people are, they follow the rules to the letter. I'm showing you another view of Khandala in the evening. This is the train going to Bhubaneswar, Konark Express, and it is being hauled by a diesel loco. It's a very beautiful place to be at all times of the day, during rains, in summer and winter. And you can see the trains which are, which have to rise from the depths of Bhor Ghats into the station. And it's very quaint. It's very nice. And as a rail fan, you really like to be in an ambience like that. We are looking at the human aspect of Indian Railways. Khandala station is where a number of people live, and Lonavala is where the school is. So when the Koina Express, very surprisingly, Khandala, for all its name, very few down trains, which means trains going to Pune, stopped. So one of these trains is the Koina Express, and all these kids go to Mumbai. They go to Lonavala by the train, attend the school, and take an evening train. Now all trains towards Mumbai stop at Khandala, which I will tell you later. Okay, so this is one of the signs where a freight train is coming and the kids are ready for Koina Express, which is following this train. I'm showing you the view of a train coming into Lonavala. This is the Udyan Express, Mumbai-Bangalore Udyan Express. And the Bhor Ghat was modeled by the British on an Austrian Ghat section, which is called a Semmering Pass. And the gradient, the sort of territory, of course, it snows in Semmering Pass, but it's very similar. The sort of challenges that, so they looked at Semmering Pass and they thought that they could replicate it in India. One thing is very clear, that Bhor Ghat was not built for charity. It was built for removal of raw material and half-finished goods from India to the port of Mumbai. So it was built to exploit our country's produce. So, but in the process, we got a working system when we got independence. And now, one thing we want to talk about is the Bhor Ghat. Everyone knows that it rains a lot in Lonavala, Khandala, and all those areas. But one of the challenges during construction was actually shortage of water, because all that water which flows just goes away. And one of the challenges in the 1850s was getting water into the construction areas. And what we are seeing here is a diesel loco, but most of the trains have an electric loco because they are very efficient in transforming power. Now, how is the electricity generated? So the answer is within this image itself. What you are seeing is one road bridge, you are seeing another road bridge, and this particular stone structure that you see is not a bridge, but it's an aqueduct, and it carries water to generate electricity for the trains. This is the satellite view of Lonavala station. Here is the foot-over bridge across the station. And this particular structure is the stone viaduct that we saw. It's an aqueduct, and it carries water from Valvan Dam, which if you go from Pune, you can see the dam on the right side. That is owned by Tata Power, and it conducts the water required for a generating station at Khopoli. So it makes use of the altitude. You have high rains in this area. So you have, one is Valvan Dam. There is a mountain to the north of it, and there is one Shiroda Dam, which is further to the north of it. So the water supply from both those dams flows in this canal, and it goes under the railway lines at a place called the Tata Bridge, because it is owned by Tata. Everything is owned by the Tata, the power generation. And this particular water supply was initially used for generating the power for helping trains in the Ghat section. And so this is how the trains are powered partially today. Of course, now it's a power part of the national grid, so we get power from a variety of sources. But Chola powerhouse at Thakurli and this particular dam system was probably the first places for electrification, which happened in 1929. Here is a view of the pipelines coming down the ghats. You see multiple things in this view. You have a train with 3 locomotives in the front, 1 diesel loco at the back, and there's a freight train. So what happens, like I told you, climbing a gradient is a challenge. Also descending the gradient is a challenge. So for a heavy freight train, the railways puts these locomotives in the front of the train. And these locomotives are manned by expert drivers who are known as Ghat drivers. And they know the section, they know the methods, they are aware of the gradients, they are aware of the pitfalls of each section. So these locos have, basically they help to brake the train safely. And these locos, all these locos have something called dynamic brakes. And dynamic brakes is a non-frictional way. You convert the motor, which is now being driven by the gravity, into electricity, and then you can either regenerate it back into the OHE in the new sophisticated locomotives. That's what is done. Or you drop it on a resistor and dissipate it as heat. But basically your brake blocks and the brake system, the air brake system, does not lose its potency. And these trains, these breakers, so when they're pushing the train up the slope, they're known as bankers. They bank a train through the bank, which is a British term for a gradient. And they are breakers because they are taking a train down the slope. Now this is Tata Bridge. These are the pipelines, and it goes under this Tata Bridge. This particular bridge is the Tata Bridge. Another thing you see in this frame are these 2 electricity towers. Now these are the Southeast 1 and Southeast 2. These are the carriers of electricity for the railways. They come somewhere from Mumbai region. They're part of the grid. And they, in those times, and before the electrification happened, south of Pune, they used to go all the way to Ghorpadi Yard. Near the Blue Diamond Bridge. That is where they used to go. And so they are also historical because they were built in 1925, and they had plates from GIPR. GIPR is a Great Indian Peninsular Railways, which is the railway company formed for, which became the Central Railways when the nation became independent. So GIPR plates on these pylons, and those pylons are amazingly, I mean, the plates have good color, they are not rusted. So they are what, from 1929 till today, it is an operation. Of course, now we have two different pylons somewhere else, and these have been scrapped. But they are, this scene also shows you something of historical value, the southeast one and southeast two. The next scene we are seeing is, this is a view of the Ghat section. The tunnel number 50 is behind me, and what you're seeing ahead is tunnel number 51. If you're traveling in a train, this will pass off in a second, and you will not be able to see the details. But this is the middle line, which is this is the up line, which is taking only trains in the down gradient. But this is it's called the up line. This is the middle line, which is bidirectional, and there's another line inside this mountain, because that's the third line, the new line, which was built in 1980s. And what you see here is a waterfall. Now, this is not a natural waterfall. It is the flow from the Walwhan Dam overflow. In the sense, there is a 4-bay installation, which is again owned by the Tata Power, and some amount of water keeps leaking from that. And this particular water source is perennial. So even in the hottest part of summer, where you have no water else anywhere available, and you'll have this waterfall running all the time. So it's one of the phenomena. You cannot see it from the train, but if you are a rail fan and you walk around, then you see all these things, and then you try to explain. At the top of this waterfall is a tunnel which allows this water from the 4-bay installation to go into the valley. Now, in the valley, people use this source of water for drinking. So it serves the ecosystem. Another thing of anecdotal interest is that Ashish Kuelkar, who's on this show, and Apurva Bahadur, when we are nearing 40s, we actually slid down the slope. Why? Because we were on the top and we wanted to go down. I'll tell you why we wanted to go down. And this wall prevented us. It looks easy, but it's higher than a locomotive. So me with my weight and a heavy backpack have walked on this and back, trying to figure out how to get to the rail level. And it's one of the silly things we have done, but I'm very happy that we have done it. Now, I'll tell you why we wanted to get here is because we didn't want to walk this track. We wanted to go inside this tunnel and walk back to Khandala using this tunnel, which is inside this mountain. I'll be showing you views of that thing. And there is a service tunnel, which allows you to go from here into this tunnel. And that's here, somewhere here in this section. Sorry. You can see it. It's here. You can see it here. Can you see the yellow and black bars? It is inside this. This is the hole, which is a service tunnel. And you can go inside and you can meet the other tunnel. So that is for emergency evacuation or for taking material like a trolley or something that you want to take inside. So instead of walking that 2.5 kilometers, you can stop a train here and unload it here. So that's also visible in this. What you see next is a view perhaps between 1920, it's built 1921 to 1929. So not 1929, slightly earlier, because you cannot see the electrification. 1929, the electrification happened. The waterfall is still here. Southeast 1, Southeast 2 are still here. The towers are still here. And this is a steam haul train coming from tunnel number 24. Sorry, yeah, 24. And this is the old system, so tunnel 26 is what used to be between Khandala station and this location. And this is, this is 25. And if you go to Mumbai by road, then you see, after you cross the 2 road tunnels, on the left, you see the track going below you. And that is because there is another tunnel below the highway. So we will talk about that in detail later. I'm going to talk about something called cat siding. Now, cat siding is a steep upgradient built into a slope, and it is to ensure that the train has command on its brakes before you let it off. So normally you expect that the train has got brakes, but things can go wrong. Brakes are operated by air pressure or vacuum. Brake blocks can burn away. You may have 1,000 reasons why you won't have brake power. So for descending trains, all trains have to halt at 3 places, which I will talk about. Here is there are cat sidings, 3 cat sidings here for the 3 tracks. This is Khandala. These 3 locomotives have just left Khandala, and every train in Indian Railways, every railway borne vehicle, it could be a single locomotive, it could be a full train, has to halt at Khandala for a few minutes on the way to Mumbai. Why is that? Because it proves there's a timer. So as soon as the train enters Khandala station, it stops at the platform and the timer runs out. So it's not in the station master's hand to pass the train, but the timer as a default will set the tracks to this section. So in case a train rolls by, it breaks the signal, it will go on this and it will brake by gravity. You can see it is going ahead. So you have 2 on this side and you have 1 on that side. And earlier, even a climbing train had a spring loaded point. And so in case it, if you have a coupling failure and or you have a loco failure and it's without power and it's without brakes, so it starts rolling back. So then it will be caught by these trap points and it will be sent up the slope. I'm not sure what the system is today, but I think that's been taken away because now you have multiple safeties on the other line. Maintaining a spring-loaded point for a heavy gauge train, because we are moving from, the trains are going to be heavier by the day, and the tracks have to handle that level of stress. So a spring-loaded point is not really conducive to those sort of loads. So this is the cat siding which you see at Khandala, and this is completely automatic operation. A train comes in, it gets a red signal by a timer. After a few minutes, the timer runs out and the train can start on its path. It can take either this track or this track depending on where the station master switches it. That's in the station master's hand. So cat siding has got some historical relics. It's got this cast iron chair from 1893, and it would impress you. But then we found one from 1884, and the rails in cat siding are bull-headed rails. So they are from maybe a century ago. Of course, trains don't run on that section, so there is no need to keep them to the latest specs. It's basically an emergency mechanism to halt any runaway train. So, but you do find a lot of historical relics if you walk the cat siding. I'll show you the next cat siding, which is at Monkey Hill. So this is something which probably all of you have seen. When your train is going to Mumbai, it will halt at Khandala, and 5 minutes the train starts. The next halt would be at Monkey Hill, and our presentation actually stops here, but there are more details to be covered. So because the section after this we are going to cover in another presentation, and here you can see this is the up track of which is going on the like in the stick map I'd shown you 2 mountains. So this is the Bheran plateau and the Natha Dungar is behind this mountain. And so this particular track is taking the northern flank of the mountain. Is the new track laid in 1980s. This is the middle and the down track, and this is the cat siding which is going up into the mountain. So this is Monkey Hill. I'm just breaking my own law that we're going to talk not beyond Manki Hill, but I need to show you the cat siding at Nagnath. And Thakurwadi has a similar cat siding. What you are seeing here is this is the end of the Bharan Plateau, and this is the start of the Natsa Dongar. And this this is the Natsa, this is the bridge which is called Nath Dogar Bridge, and here is a train coming to Nagnath cabin for waiting. It's a locomotive which is waiting here, and what you're seeing here is the cat siding at the Nagnath this thing, and on the other side of this mountain, on the left of this mountain, is the cat siding of Thakurwadi, and connecting these two is this service tunnel. You can walk from Nagnath into Thakurwadi and vice versa using this walkway, for which you have to climb the entire cat siding from Nagnath side, which I showed you in the previous image, and you have to go on this side. There's also another function. These two cables are the overhead cable. Now this is shot in 2009, and where we had a 1.5 kV DC, 1500 volt DC electrification. So 1500 volts for all who's electrical engineers, you know, for if you have low voltage, you have a very high current. So so you had a substation at Thakurwadi, which is on the left hand side, and these are the positive and the negative 1500 volt cables which ran through these tunnels to charge the line on this side. So you had a substation earlier, you had a substation later, you had multiple substations to provide the heavy current which was needed by trains by climbing the Bhor Ghat. And these cables were used to charge this section, and this tunnel was used to carry the cables. So it had another function apart from taking people from here and there. Also, Naganath was constructed during the 1980s on its own. So you didn't have access. So all the material, the heavy material could be probably unloaded at Thakurwadi and then moved through this tunnel into the work area. It's possible. We are looking at some amount of operation of the Bhor Ghat because of the gradient in while climbing as well as descending. There are special rules that are needed for the operations here. I'm just showing you a train which is started from Palasdhari. There are 3 locomotives which are pushing this train. You can already see the gradient which is starting to appear, and these 3 locomotives are the bankers or the assisting locomotives, and each locomotive is 5500 HP, so 25,500 HP, plus in the front you have another 4,500 2 locomotives. So you need a lot of power to move these heavy trains which could be weighing about 4,500 tons, something around that tonnage. And the crew which drives these bankers are sitting in the last locomotive. Why is that? Because the last vehicle should be manned. So there are 2 guys here, and they are operating the train, and they are blind because in front of their windscreen is another locomotive. So only by looking at their air gauge, the brake gauge, and looking at their ammeter, they're able to determine what's going on in the front. So as the train starts from Karjat, where these bankers are fitted, these locomotives start pushing the train first, whereas the lead locomotive will do nothing. He'll be just having a vada pav or a cup of tea. This is the place where the crews which come from Mumbai take a break, and they open up their snacks, or they get snacks from the train itself or from the platform vendors, and they do nothing because the rear end of the train has started to push them. After they leave Karjat and they cross into the main line, then the lead power starts opening the power. So this is to ensure that the train is moving under the command of the bankers and not the lead. There have been accidents in which the train has started by the lead driver, and it's only when they reached a critical part of the gradient, they figured out that they don't have the power and the train stalled. To prevent these sort of mishaps, the current rule is that the train will be pushed from the rear first. After the train comes onto the main line, the lead driver will open the power, and then the train could start. The lead guy will keep moderate power. The speeds are not very high. It's about 55 kilometers per hour through the section, or 60 kilometers for mail express trains, for passenger trains. Another thing you can see is that there's another guy in the lead locomotive. Now, 3 locomotives, their systems, and the amount of the gauges that you have to keep track is very high. And in case there is a problem, then 2 people in this cab are not adequate to fault find. So they provide another assistant driver who travels in the front locomotive, and sometimes his job is to assist these 2 guys, because if a train stalls up on the up gradient, then obviously one guy cannot leave his seat because he has to be on the brakes. Another guy gets out, he puts wooden wedges so that the loco will be mechanically braked, and because the gradient is trying to pull you down. And then between these team, they try to fault find the loco and make it happen. So again, the system is proven because 125 trains are running through the section every day. And of course, these are pre-COVID statistics, but we are getting there. Another thing that you must know about this picture is that if this train is to stop somewhere in the section while climbing, these locos don't switch off. They remain in the 3rd notch. There are 33 notches or 33 power levels for these locomotives, and these locomotives remain in power. It's like, you putting your car in first gear and keeping it in half clutch and not allowing. Of course, these are electric motors, so they don't burn out, but these are DC motors, so they're passing current and there is some restriction to time, but that's how they brake during climbing. So if a train is, because there are some trains, they stop at a variety of, just 2 weeks back, I traveled from Mumbai to Pune on Gadag Express, which leaves at about 21:20 from VT. And it stopped at all stations except Khandala and Thakurwadi, I think. So why does it do that? Because the midnight shift of the people who are working in the cabin need a transportation back to their home station. So the train carries the change of shift workers. So around the clock, there are 3-4 trains which stop, and in all directions. They will stop in the downhill direction as well as the uphill direction. So when they are stopped, the bankers are stopped with their power. Of course, something can go wrong with this train also. So in which case, they have to stop and investigate. And at that time, these locos will be in the 3rd notch in power with their brakes on, with everything. But this is one system that they adopt. They have to do that. I'm showing you the other function of the banker locomotives, which work only between Karjat to Lonavala and back. They have only this duty. So 27 kilometers back. Now, you may ask that all these drivers have a running allowance. Like these are also Mail Express drivers, top of the line drivers. Now, a Mail Express driver will take a train from BT or CSMT, take it to Pune and back. Or in the northeast route, they may take a train from CSMT, go to Igatpuri and back. Of course, today they go slightly further. So they get a running allowance as per the kilometers. So what do the Ghat drivers do with running only 27 kilometers in each direction? So they get 5 times the mileage. So it compensates for their lack of actual mileage. So it is salary plus mileage, and sometimes this mileage is a pretty substantial amount, and everybody is happy to receive that. So what you're seeing here is 3 locomotives, which is in the downhill, the up direction, and it is downhill, and it is braking this train. Now, these 3 locomotives are braking on dynamic brakes. There's a WDG4 locomotive, a diesel locomotive behind it. That's also on its dynamic brakes. And there's 2 crew here and a crew in this train. So at the end of the gradient at Karjat, these 3 locomotives will decouple, and the diesel will take over and start. So as I explained to you earlier, at every significant curve, the crew and the guard will exchange flags to say that everything is okay at my end. And that's what you're seeing here. This is, of course, Palasdhari, which is close to the bottom of the ghats. Because I'm talking about the operation of ghats, so you need to know about these things. This is an image from 2008. And what you see here is these two locomotives have 2600 HP. These three locomotives have 4200 HP. So we are looking at 17,800 HP to haul just two brake vans. As I told you, every vehicle in the ghats has to be banked. And there is a special reason why these brake vans cannot be hauled without bankers. And why are they detached from their trains? I'll tell you that also. So this is a very rare sighting of a brake van special, consists of only two brake vans. And you need to push the trains through the slope, so that in case a coupling fails, if there is any problem, then this thing will not roll back. So that is why you have multiple locomotives. Of course, earlier you used to have only single bankers, but now virtually either two or three locomotives are always coupled together, and they push the train through the section. So these four-wheeled brake vans, they were called BVG class of brake vans, are very lightweight. They weigh only 10.5 tons each. And in a freight train going up slope, maybe a 4,200 ton train in the front, and you have a four-wheeled brake van at the rear, and you have this three monster locomotives at the back. So when these guys push, this guy just crumbles. It's very easy for them to derail. And once it derails, we are talking of pre-walkie-talkie, communication aids. All you had was a brake meter. You knew what the pressure on your brake gauge was, and you were watching the ammeter. So this guy did not know that this has derailed. The lead drivers did not know. They had ample power, so they would keep running, and this poor guy would be, damaging the tracks for kilometers. So the procedure was to remove these four-wheel brake vans and take them as a separate train and attach them at Lonavala. Since then, now we have 8-wheel brake vans, and 8-wheel brake vans are perfectly capable of taking the buffing, which is the pushing and braking loads of the entire trains. And they are also more stable. So this scene doesn't happen anymore, although four-wheel brake vans are used in other parts of India, but not in the Ghat section. One thing I wanted to tell you about is communication. Like I said, I make it sound as if everybody is just blind and they're looking at their gauges and they're depending on flags and lights and something like that. But now all the crew carries a walkie-talkie. Okay, and over the noisy loco, they are able to talk to each other and sort of pass on, okay, I'm starting, etc., etc. What happens is the walkie-talkie stops working inside a tunnel. So there's a new system called a leaky cable, which is installed on a trial basis inside the longest tunnel, which is tunnel 49 or 25C. And that extends the walkie-talkie communication from this is Monkey Hill, a train which is climbing the gradient. So a banker driver here can, with the help of the leaky cable, talk to the station master at Khandala. So in case the train stalls inside the tunnel, they can keep in touch. Everybody can keep in touch. So it's an expensive system. It costs crores of rupees to implement leaky cable, but the last I knew they were going to implement leaky cable. It's a very high technology system. So it consists of a cable which is laid through other tracks, and that will extend walkie-talkie communication even in tunnels, even in cuttings. Not a problem. So that's going to be done. And it's just an anecdote about this picture. So what you see here is these are dual voltage WCAM3. So W is broad gauge, C is continuous, that means DC current, A is alternating current, which means alternating current, and M is mixed duty locomotive. So earlier on, probably you don't know, but Mumbai to Pune used to be 1.5 kV DC. and the rest of the country was at 25,000 volts AC. So these locos could work in both the sections. They had two different types of pantographs. Pantographs are these collectors on the top. So one was a single bar panto and another was a double bar panto. And these locomotives had DC operating system as well as transformers for AC operating system. So they could work in both the gauges. So Mumbai was an island system for power that Western Railway, which is from Baroda to Mumbai Central to Churchgate. That used to be 1.5 kV DC, and ahead of Virar used to be 25,000 volts AC. And same with this Pune, Mumbai, Pune, Igatpuri used to be 1.5 kV DC. And of course, south of Pune, we didn't have electrification then, but now we do. But in 2010, a very ambitious plan, and we pushed in electrification to 25,000 volts AC. There were a lot of apprehensions that will these cables, because 25,000 volts is a very serious voltage in the sense that you can have arc jumping a considerable distance, and you can have ionization. Today the gangmen who work under the tracks, they walk, they're inspecting the track. They carry umbrellas in the rainy season, and the corona discharge from 25,000 volts give them shocks while they're on the tracks. So that's the sort of power 25,000 volts has got. And RDSO is working on designing umbrellas which will not give them a shock. So these are the sort of challenges that you have in a very rainy season with high voltage. So this train is pushing. One more information which I can give to you is you can see 3 tracks, but earlier to 1980 you had only 2 tracks. So basically this track would connect straight up. If you can see, this section is actually in line with this, and there is another track which is in line with this, but it has got cranked and turned here. So this kink is something you observe at Monkey Hill and in Jamrong Cabin, where the old system and the new system connect. This is the track which was made in 1980 till from here to down the thing to Jamrong, and from here this is the track which was made in 1980. So the new track, the third track, keeps changing the direction. Sometimes it's on the left, sometimes on the right, and where it connects, you have, because you have only this shelf, you have a mountain on this side, you have a mountain on this side. So within this shelf you have to construct one more line. Now there are talks that there'll be one more 4th line which is going to be constructed from Bheran Plateau to Thakurwadi. So it will expand the capacity of the line even more. Okay, let me go forward. So you have noticed this kink, the track, and these are special wagons which carry bulk cement from Wadi. There are a lot of cement factories like ACC. These are privately owned rakes, and they carry bulk cement from Wadi and or Shabad, and they bring the bulk cement to Kadamboli, which is near Panvel. And by bulk cement, I mean it's powder cement. And these wagons, they are pressurized by air, and that air pressure actually empties the cement powder into a silo. So that's what these trains are. I'm showing you a view of a banker which is returning light, because most of the duties, it has to go light, that means without a load, from Lonavala back to Karjat and then push another train. Sometimes it has to act like breakers, and then it will be attached to a train, and it will come back to, it will take a train from Lonavala back to Karjat. It's a very slow and very carefully done operation. But this is a place where the trains are. At Lonavala, you have a big yard in which every brake is checked, brake clearance is checked, any brake block which is defective, that is checked, brake power is checked, etc., etc., etc. And then these locos couple at the head of the train, and they, under the guidance of very expert crew, the train starts down the gradient, and these locos are detached at Karjat, and the train carries on. So this is a view of the Lonavala exit. Next, we are going to talk about tunnels, which which is a very strong component of this section. When constructed, Bhor Ghat had 28 tunnels, and now we have 52. So what you're seeing is a map of the area. This is Khandala, whose station code is KAD. This is coming from Lonavala. The first tunnel in the track which is climbing to Pune, the last tunnel rather I would say, is the T52 down, that is number 52, which is on the leftmost track. And from Khandala, these two tracks, that 51, I'm talking about the new numbers. The old numbers used to be 25, 26 like that, because there were only limited number of tunnels. But now you have 3 tracks and many more tunnels. And it's a double line tunnel. It's a semicircular tunnel. It's almost a kilometer long, and it was built it was inaugurated in 1929. And do you remember the service tunnel I was talking about, where Ashish Koelkar and I went down a very steep slope, and we walked on a wall, and then we wanted to go. So we wanted to enter this service tunnel and then walk back in this tunnel to Khandala to take our train. So basically, it's a thrill walking into a tunnel which is 2.5 kilometers long. Of course, it is not legal, but India being India, if your intentions are good and you're able to convince the people there that this is who you are, our madness actually rubs into them sometimes. But we also run into a lot of problems. But that's another story. So we have 51 up and mid, because you have the up track which is going in this direction. This is the up track which is taking the trains to Mumbai, the descending trains, and mid track is the bi-directional track. And then you have another tunnel which is tunnel 50, which is also carrying 2 tracks. And this is the location of the Tata Bridge. Now what you see here is the pipeline which is coming from Mulvan Dam, and it is going to cross the railway lines at this Tata Bridge, and this carries the water to the Tata powerhouse at Khopoli. And you have a very small tunnel, 48 up and mid, which is below the highway. So these are the road tunnels. You're coming by the express highway from Pune, and you have these 2 tunnels which go. Now there is a special railway connection here, which I'll talk about later. And as soon as you leave the road tunnels, on the left hand side, you can see the tracks, and you see them going below you. You can see the entrance of this longest tunnel, which is this 49 down. This is 2.5 kilometer long. We'll talk about it in a while. And there is another tunnel which opens for this 3rd track below the highway. So this is what you see here. Note this ventilation shaft and ventilation shaft 2, which I will talk to you later. For these long tunnels, you have ventilation shafts which open into the atmosphere. I'll be showing you views of this. This is a view of the upper Bhor Ghat section, which we have. This presentation is all about, has got 6 tunnels, and the down line, which is carrying only the climbing traffic, has got tunnel number 47, 49, and 52. And the mid lines have 3 tunnels, which is 51. Middle line and the up line, these 2 lines are together, and they have tunnels 51, 50, and 48. And here you can see the western portal of the tunnel number 47, which is just 365 meters long, but it opens below the highway. And in this next view, you can see a train leaving. This is the express highway on the top. So you will be traveling here. And if you're going by 2-wheeler, if you're going by the non-toll road, then you'll be going on the top, that section. And you can see the trains, and this is a train coming from that tunnel, 24C. And now you can understand where we are in this section. There's a substation on the top. Here is a substation on the left. Here's the same train going into the tunnel number 49, which used to carry the old tunnel number 25C. And this tunnel used to be the longest tunnel in India from 1982 to Konkan Railways when they had longer tunnels in 1998. So it was a legendary tunnel of 2.2 kilometers length, and it's going here and it will come out at the home of Khandala. So from your highway, the point where the highway crosses the tracks to Khandala is one tunnel, and this is this tunnel. And this tunnel has got ventilation shafts, it's got jet fans, which we will talk about. It also has a service shaft, which we'll show you. This is the view of one of the ventilation shafts from inside the tunnel. What you see here is the overhead wire. In these tunnels, it's very depressing in the sense that it's very claustrophobic. Now, when we did it, we didn't have very good torches. We had bulb type torches. We didn't have LED torches. And so while you're walking, there is no ventilation. It's very humid inside. And then sometimes you feel, okay, I'm feeling good now. Why are you feeling good? Because the breeze is flowing. So if the breeze is flowing, a train is coming because it's pushing the air inside. So you better get out of the way. So as long as you're feeling bad, it's okay. If you're feeling good, then a train is coming and you have to clear the path. Problem with this tunnel is that the trains come only in one direction. So you also have to keep watching your back if you're walking towards Khandala. So this is the view from inside. This is a view from outside. Now here I introduce Ashish Kuelkar. Now we had a mission that we need to discover how the ventilation shaft looks from the top, and we must have gone past this particular structure at least 3 times within 100 meters. We asked a few people that do they know there's a well-looking structure here, and one of the guys actually took us to an actual well. He said, "Yeah, this is the well. This is." I said, "No, it's a well which doesn't contain water." So then some guy who said, "Okay, here it is." So even the people who live within 100 meters of this place do not know the existence of this thing, because the people who live there are the people who are from Mumbai, who have property for holiday. They come spend a weekend and then go back to Mumbai, but they don't do the exploration and the bloodletting and the mosquito biting that Ashish and I used to do in the past. So this is how it looks, and I'll show you this is the first of the ventilation shaft from Mumbai end. This is the view of the second ventilation shaft from inside the tunnel, and you can see why we want to go here. If you can notice, there are red spots here, and here. So these are the there are jet fans inside to move the exhaust gas of the locomotives into this hole, and those things have the controls, the optical controls. So as soon as the train passes, these jet fans switch on. So as soon as the train passes in this tunnel, you'll start hearing the clattering sounds, and you will be wondering what it is, and then you point your torch up, and then you can see the fan running. And after some time, there's a timer, and the fan stops working. I'll just show you the jet fan. This is how the jet fan is. In those times, it used to be science fiction, but now you have jet fans and so many tunnels inside our express highway. So it's not anything new for most of the people. Next slide is a view of the exterior of the second ventilation shaft. This, of course, is the Duke's nose. Everybody knows that. They say this is Salman Khan's bungalow, but I don't know. We have never been inside that. Nobody's called us in. This is my friend John Money, who's looking inside the second ventilation shaft. And it's very well covered, and there's a grill inside. So if you throw a stone, it'll never go to the track level. This is relatively easy to find. You can also locate it on Google Maps. If you know, contact me offline if you want a guided tour of the Ghat on Google Maps, and contact me even further if you want to actually go there. But the risks are considerable. Okay, this is the service tunnel I was talking about. You go inside this and you have the other tunnel, which is the 2.5 kilometer tunnel. This is the midline, and the other tunnel is inside this. So you can go from this end inside this tunnel, and on the right, you'll walk to Khandala. Okay, we're going to talk about something called a reversing station. it used to be called Amrutanjan Bridge or Sakala Bridge. It's a structure quite far away from the railway line, and not many people knew the function of this structure. It was demolished in 2021 during the COVID shutdown to clear more path for because there used to be a number of accidents due to its column. This is the plate which sort of commemorates the opening of this particular structure. This plate used to be in at least 2 different places, and now, not now. Now it's demolished, but earlier in 2000, prior to 2020, this was the place where it was installed. Now I don't know where it is and who owns it, but this was the bridge. I'll just show you the function of this. This is the top view of the reversing station in 2014. This is the track. Okay, so your train would go here and then go here. This particular triangular peak that you see in the distance is the peak of Monkey Hill. And Ashish Kuvelkar is the only rail fan who actually climbed on the top. And the mountain you see behind is the Bheran Plateau. So the train goes in that direction to Karjat. And this is the non-toll highway, the low-toll highway, let's say. And two-wheelers have to take this route. And your tolled highway goes below this. So this is the structure from the top. This is the view from 1860 to 1929, where train used to come here, it used to reverse. So what you can see, I'll show you better views, but now you can see the connection of how this is connected to the railways. I'll be showing you a map and I'll be explaining you how this particular structure helped trains to climb from Karjat all the way to Khandala, to Lonavala. This is a view from the top. These are the tracks which are coming from Karjat. I don't think there was a place called Monkey Hill in those days. So it would come here, and this train would have a locomotive in the front as well as the back. So it will come here and then it would reverse and then take this path. And then it would go inside the tunnels that you take today as a road tunnels. They were actually railway tunnels. So I'll be explaining that to you in a future map. This particular track is a catch siding. So if a train starts rolling down, it will go into this gradient and stop. And this mountain, of a very pale shadow of it exists even today. And if you look at it from Khandala side, then you can also see the remnants of the tracks. So this is a map of what happened in 1929. This is the Khandala station. This is the route to Pune. This is the route which comes from Mumbai, Bombay. And today's track is this way. This is the tunnel below the highway. This is the old highway. Okay, let me explain the track first. And then it would go into the second tunnel, and then it would go into the semicircular tunnel and reach Khandala. But prior to 1929, where this reversing station was eliminated, the train would climb into this reversing station. It would reverse and then go into this tunnel, which they've called as 24, which is your road tunnel. Now they've built another tunnel parallel to this to extend the capacity of the express highway. And you had the old timers in this talk would remember that the old highway also had a smaller tunnel, which was demolished when the expressway was constructed. And then this track would go along. This is the tank. You remember the tank outside Khandala, and it will merge with the track. So a train would come, reverse, go along this track. Now, if you remember, this section of the road has got hardly any gradient. You climb the ghat, till now it is a bad gradient, and now this is hardly any gradient because it used to be a railway track. So this is the section. At this point, I think I can take a small break. I have a few slides left, and Farooq bhai, you can, I'll stop the share and then you can show your presentation. Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I stop your share?
Yeah, I'll stop the share.
Yeah. So Thank you, Apurva. I think just give me 1 minute.
Yeah.
I will just introduce the people that, we conduct these programs in Gyanadab, the Gyanpedia, is because we also collect donations for our another NGO called Nityasha Foundation. Nityasha Foundation is a foundation where we take care of children with type 1 diabetes, and we seek donations for that. All the patrons who come for Gyanadab programs, I request them to donate them, and I will show a small video which explains what Nityasha Foundation is, just a 30-second video. So please bear with me and just see this video. Explain everything that we do in Nityasha. And at the end, there will be there's this scan, and you can just go down to nityasha.org. This is the video. The cost of each child, the medical cost of each child is around about 35,000 rupees for 1 year. It's about 3,000 odd per month and about 100 rupees per day. And if you go to nityasha.org or leave your phone number on the chat today, we'll be glad to contact you. I will also leave my phone number on this chat so that you can WhatsApp me in case you would like to donate. I sincerely request you, because these are poor children. They cannot afford insulin. They cannot afford medical care. And if these children are given insulin and medical care regularly, and they have to take this lifelong, but we support children up to the age of 23, I sincerely request you to donate generously. I'll now remove my self from the spotlight and hand over to Apurva. Apurva, please go ahead.
Yeah. Can you see the map?
Yeah.
Okay. One thing that Farooq Bhai didn't tell is that during COVID, these are very poor children, and they also supported in terms of the rations, because both the parents have lost the job. The kids need that amount of, so they didn't have food to eat. So Nityasha also helped, and I believe that he is doing God's work. So I would urge each of you to donate whatever, small amount, big amount, everything matters, and we have to help Farooq Bhai in this mission and taking this forward. Okay, we are looking at the map, and it says something like dinner served. Okay, another few, the cat sightings of Khandala. So you can see them shown in the map, and there are these shafts. Now, Ashish and I, we have walked on top of this hill. We couldn't find these shafts. I don't know where they are, but there were apparently shafts because this map says so. And dinner served here was where the inauguration, you can see this dotted line is the tunnel. So at the end of the tunnel, you had an inauguration ceremony, which I will show you the snaps of. I just have 4 or 5 slides left, so bear with me. This is a view of Khandala station prior to straightening of this kink due to reversal. So you can see this is the what is known as the Tiger Valley, the Ullas River Valley. There's a waterfall here, and the tracks would go into this station, and then it would go to the 2 tunnels which were on the road today. One of the tunnels is demolished, but there were 2 tunnels on that thing, and then it will go to the reversing station, which would be about 3-4 kilometers away. So you can see that this used to be the path, and this would be a dead end because this would be the station which would come into play after 1929. When the main track was done. You can see these mountains, they exist today also. You can see the Manoranjan fort that's at the background, and the rest of the landscape looks very similar, but this is Khandala station. when the reversing station was on. And if you look at a film like Choti Si Baat, it shows Amol Palekar arriving at Khandala, and then he goes under a few parked wagons, and this particular track is very much visible. And so, there is a YouTube channel of Rajeshri Films, and they've distributed this film into many sections, and only one part has got 1 million views, and they're all the rail fans who've seen this section. So I would request you to add to that view and understand how the trackage used to be in those days. This is the view of the, in the map I showed you, something called the dinner was served here. So that is this place. That is this tunnel, which is tunnel number 50. And it used to be tunnel number 26. And these are the dignitaries who are at the inauguration of the tunnel. Contrary to belief, it is not the British who built this, straightening of the ghat, because prior to reversal, operation in the trains was very difficult. In 1929, we were already on the way to electrification, because Britain had electrification and Europe had electrification. So they thought that they should electrify this section. And this reversing station didn't bode very well to electrification. A train would come, then it'll reverse and all that. So they thought they should straighten the kink and run it straight through. So they built 3 tunnels. It took a lot of labor, and it is actually Tata Sons, and this is Seth Walchand Hirachand. If you look at this thing, so it is Tata Sons who was the contractor who built it, and later on, all the business went. It's Indians who have built this. It could be under British guidance, but the labor was done and the construction was done by Indian companies. Now look at this guy with the center parting. There is a board above his head, and this board exists even now. This is a view from 2014. This is the board. This is Lalam Mandavkar, my other partner in crime, whom we have spent a lot of life and death moments in the railway lines. This is Ashish Kuelkar. This is Jayant Ramdasi, who is a ghat driver. And this is Dr. Ian Kerr. Now, he is the global authority. He was the global authority in Bhor Ghat. He's written about 5 books on the Indian Railways. And he was the authority on the history of Indian Railways. Unfortunately, he passed last year. So it's upon people like us who are serious about railway history to take his legacy forward, because this is the first time he had traveled through the ghat section, but he had never set his foot on the thing. So we took him there in 2014 and showed him the various sites. And for him, it was a dream outing that he could see these things and set foot in the places that he had written about. So this plate still exists, and it still contains text about how, and in those days it cost something paltry like 25 lakhs, which must be a huge sum at that time. But this is the tunnel outside Khandala station. Okay, this is my last slide. This is a train diverting on the upline at Monkey Hill, and I'll be very happy to answer any questions or listen to any feedback that anyone has. Thank you.
Apurva,
yes.
if you just go through the chat box, the number of people have asked questions and put on the chat box.
Okay.
You can just answer one by one,
Okay. So first of all, I was just going to reply hello to so many people who have said, greetings. So that's very nice. Yes, greetings from Pakistan. Of course, we like each other's railways, at least. Yes, definitely. Okay, just let me come to the first question.
I think Narayanan Swami has sent a question. Deepesh Soni has written,
yeah, That's correct.
The lines between Mumbai and Howrah,
yes,
and Mumbai and Pune in 1855. So Malshed Ghat would have acted as a junction station instead of Kalyan. But this didn't happen due to difficult terrain, especially in monsoon. the engineers decided to cancel this plan.
That's correct. That is absolutely correct. And Sandhi sir has asked me a question: are there restrictions or safety limits? Okay. Very frankly, we know the railway people. We explain who we are. Indian means Indians. Well, a person of my size and with my board, but nobody, they don't care. I mean, basically, they say you stay safe. We can't fetch you if there's a problem. And once we've established that we are not, going to harm the railways, and we have, this is always a chicken and egg situation with the railways, that they want to trust you, but we have to establish credentials. You have to say a few names, get somebody to call them, and then okay, apne aadmi hai, and then the things become slightly better. But it happens. I mean, just in September, I was in BT, Mumbai MT. I had permission from the CPRO to shoot. Still, somebody challenged me, and I had only 7-8 minutes to catch my train, so I couldn't argue. This was very early in the morning, so I didn't want to wake up that person and make him. But he says, no, you don't have a permission to shoot here, and delete your images, or I'll put you, this thing. So even a person of my age can get into trouble while shooting or being on the track. So there isn't a clear answer. We try to get permissions, and railway also needs our photographs, so they do give us permissions at times, but there is always a catch. Like the Central Railway PRO has given me permission to take photographs, but they find something. No, the permission is only on that platform on which this train is standing. You can't shoot here. It's not a nuclear power station that I'm taking photographs of. I'm taking photographs of an ancient relic like Mumbai CST and trains. So what harm can I come? And a person like, anyway, so that happens. I mean, so it's a mixed thing. Every time we are out with the camera, we can be caught, and we can be, there's only one person in this meeting who has seen the inside of a jail lockup, and it's not you. So, okay. The second question is, what modern sensors, processing, communications are used in modern locos? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The track interlocks and the track signaling is the way that you go forward. Before the driver starts a journey, they are given something called a caution order. And that caution order says that between kilometer so and so, track work is going on. Between kilometer so and so, track is sagging, so you maintain a slightly lower this thing, etc., etc., etc. So they are aware of what are the hazards which are going to come ahead on their journey. If there is no caution order on a particular day, they get a note saying no caution order. There are no cautions. So they sign that and they accept it. They memorize it and they keep that caution order in front of them while they're driving. And that's their duty. They're looking at signals. They're calling out the signals, and they're looking at, okay, kilometer so and so, what do I have to do next? And so that's how they know what's going on in the front. We are moving towards a system where all these caution orders will come electronically in the cab. But given the size of India and given the complexity and places where you don't have electricity and where you don't have internet and you don't have connectivity, and you don't have, one thing is that a lot of Indian railways is connected by optical fiber, but that's for their internal use. There are all systems coming into place. If you go to a station, something wayside station, they have data loggers which can show you what happened to a train, and it's a great experience watching trains pass. It's like a game, that this train comes, this goes. So it's a track map of the station, and they have a recording of what's happened. They have interlocking, they have fiber optic cables, they have computerized controls, etc., 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 which are being upgraded from, say, a relay-based logic or a electromechanical logic, and it's coming into the thing. So the sections which carry a lot of load, like the trunk routes, have it upgraded first. You're going to soon have in-cab signaling. You'll have all the caution orders written to you inside the cab, so you are aware of what's going to happen in the front, because not so much in our parts, but North India has got a lot of fog in the winters, so where the track visibility is very poor. So sighting the track, sighting the signals is a big challenge. So systems are coming, but today if you say average track, they are dependent on their caution orders. They're looking at the signals and they are following the signals. They're following the speed limits, and they're road learning. They are the experts of experts in their section. So they know everything. They know the curvature. They know the gradients. They know what can happen where. Where do I have to pick up the speed? If you travel in the locomotive, you find that once the train has accelerated to its speed, this guy just shuts off the power, and for kilometers the train keeps rolling at that speed because they know the gradient. So they save a lot of power. And currently every driver energy audit is conducted. So at the end of the journey, they check how many megawatt hours you've consumed, and there is a standard that you're supposed to clear this section in so much, or how many kiloliters of diesel have you consumed. So that against the standard is measured, that if you are a good driver, you will be saving energy. And if you consume more than your this thing, then you may be sent for counseling or retraining. But or you may have a reason that my brakes were sticking, so I had to use more this thing, or I had to do start and stop, so that takes more energy. But the drivers are aware of the gradients and how to maximize the use of their what's given to them, and they are experts. They could be sitting behind a computerized control and everything is run by the machine, but that doesn't happen in India. You have a lot of hazards, like cows walking across, people in the tracks. You go to the tracks, go through Jhoppadpatti. Where are you going to put computers in that and modern sensors?
No, Apurva,
Yeah.
what I meant was,
Sandhi, you can raise your questions also, what you have put in the chat box. You can go ahead, Sandhi.
Yeah.
No, I think, Apurva, I was mainly talking about the electronics that's inside the engine. So, for example, wear and tear. There are a lot of sensors inside, is what I was primarily focusing on. And also, power line is a better method to communicate between the front engines and back engines.
Absolutely. A Wi-Fi through the power line, but you may not have, you may be, equal number of trains run on diesel, so they don't have a pantograph. Then what will you do? So I'm saying that, of course, you'll have a Wi-Fi communication. It's coming. Another one thing I can tell you is that every time you focus on Indian Railways, there is something different and something improved. Okay.
Sandhi, you were asking how much gap is there between the train and the side of the tunnel? That was one of your questions.
Like you guys walk there.
Yeah.
Do you have 8 or 10 feet?
No. In the previous video, yeah. I think Apurva had mentioned that he had to fall into a gutter to escape the train,
So no, because I had a backpack. So that backpack plus Meri Dheri, I couldn't fit into this. So, and this guy, Lalam was with me, and Lalam is very slim. So, and he was ahead of me by about feet. So, we went after a train and another train followed. Normally, one train and दूसरे train में there's a gap. So, we say, okay, we'll follow this train and go inside. But I'm glad that we have done it. So, I had to ditch my backpack in a hurry. And because it was a voyeur's moment, so I had to also shoot the train going by, etc., etc.
So let me just barge in here to answer Mr. Bhide's question.
Yeah.
There is an IC standard for train control network.
That's correct.
And there is inside that there is what is called as VCU, that is Vehicle Control Unit. And CDAC is one team at CDAC Trivandrum is working on this, and they have been put in all the locomotives that CLW is making. Okay. So he's absolutely right. It's you can say in a way it's a SCADA system in some way.
Okay.
In some way, it's a PLC kind of thing. So
yeah,
I can give you more details on that.
Yeah, actually, Ashish, I will request you to conduct a session on that. This is this particular Gyanpedia is for knowledge. So engineering knowledge is what we are looking at. So if you have a presentation that you could share, that would be great. Okay, you had another question about brakes, especially descending one, friction, regenerative, or mix. How are the brakes cooled? So for the locos, you have tread brakes, which are applied to the flanges. For the new locomotives, you could have disc brakes, which are part of the wheel web itself. Then you have dynamic brakes, which most of the locos have. And the very new three-phase locomotives could have regenerative brakes, but regenerative brakes depend on your OHA system. If it is receptive, there is a reverse power relay. So in case grids start seeing that you're feeding power back into the grid, and it doesn't accept that because it has to deal with that energy and how to dissipate it and how to divert it for better use. Ideally, it's correct that a train which is descending down the ghats should regenerate and then power the train which is coming up the ghat. So you become net neutral in terms of energy. It'll be nice, but the section has to be alive for that energy exchange. And I'm not sure if Bhor Ghat is wired for that. Maybe Ashish can answer. I don't know. So that's one type of braking. And are the brakes cool? No, they are not cool. In fact, trains coming down the ghats, you can see white smoke coming from the brake blocks. Now, of course, because of the air brakes, a lot of things have improved. Earlier, you had vacuum brakes, which was a terror because you needed to use them and then you would have to recharge them. So part of these cat siding stops were because you needed to recharge your vacuum. And another interesting thing is in the DC locomotives of 1950s and 60s, you had these regenerative brakes because the overhead wiring was 1.5 kV DC. So DC mein frequency, voltage, nothing. So you just, instead of 1.5, you just regenerate to 1.6 volts, 1.6 thousand volts, and you can regenerate back to. So the earlier generation of locos, which came in the 50s and 60s, had regenerative brakes, which could help. And we have read of instances where substations had huge cauldrons of resistive elements immersed in water, and the water would boil to absorb the excess energy from regenerating locomotives. So these are all parts of history. But today, the whole country will become 25,000 volts with receptive OHE, and you will have feedback to this, and that's going to happen, and all the locos will be three-phase, except for the diesels, which have to convert it into heat. They have no other choice.
Apurva,
yes, sir.
We have with us another senior doctor, scientist, Dr. Ashok Saraf. So I'm asking you, Ashok Saraf.
Sir, namaste. Guruji hai, sir. How are you? Lovely.
When I saw your name, I was surprised. I said, Appu? I said, is it same?
Yes, same.
Okay. Very nice to see you.
Yeah, we will get together. Let me just finish the questions and I'll come back.
Okay. So my question.
You have a question, yes.
My question was, you have done excellent study and you have a lot of nice material. It will be nice if you have to write a book about it for the children. If you haven't done it, please do it.
Nobody buys a book, The problem is,
doesn't matter. You still write a book.
I have a meager balance. No, but all my work is free. It's open source. We'll be writing.
You write a book because it is a book always stays much longer.
Okay.
You can publish it as a PDF and you can give it free. That's not an issue.
Yeah.
Please write it.
We will do.
One more question was like this demo and all. Do you see any possibilities of a self-sustainable high gradient up and down both cars, so that one can make combination of multiple car type of system?
All of these are multiple united. If you have 3 locomotives, you have only one set of crews. There is a limit. I mean, maximum you can.
I'm not talking about the long distance train.
No. Even in the ghat, you have 3 locomotives which are coupled together. They are operated only by 2 people because there are multiple united. So if you are not.
My question was. Yeah. When can we see local being extended?
Locals actually run through the ghat. The Lonavala Pune services are not maintained in Pune. They are maintained in Kalwa, or they are maintained in Sanpada. So they come to Karjat as a last service of the day, and in the night they climb the ghat with only a loco inspector and a skeletal crew.
Yeah, and, do they need bankers?
Yes, they do need bankers. No, I have a photography.
Can we have a ghat local, which is a ghat car? That means you extend the locomotive to become passenger.
It's coming now with the train 18 and all that. I don't know if Sudhanshu Manu is here. He's the father of train 18. He's the general. He was the ex-general manager, and he's the architect of Train 18. So 400 Train 18s are ordered by the Indian Railways. We cannot make. Yeah.
Quickly, Apurva, I just like,
let me just finish the question. I have 19
Yeah,
questions.
please go ahead.
1 minute.
Yeah.
Apurva,
Yeah.
before you go to the question, I just want Mr. Dr. Iraj Barutia to say some few words. But
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you again.
Yes,
It
sir.
has been a fascinating evening, really. I really enjoyed this. And I enjoyed this from a very different perspective, apart from railways, which were always fascinated me from my childhood.
Yes.
One is that this whole region has so many different aspects to it.
Yes.
Railways is just one of those.
Yes.
The geology is fascinating. The vegetation, the forest is absolutely incredibly biodiverse and fascinating. And the Tatas have had such an important role to play in so many different aspects of this.
Absolutely.
I mean, the very fact of building the dams in Jamshedji's vision was actually to create electricity, not initially for railways, but for Mumbai's mills, so that they could clean up the air.
Yes.
And there are just so many fascinating things. The geology is absolutely incredible. Your first slide today represents exactly how Pangay split from Africa.
Yes.
You had the African-India drift splitting away.
Yeah.
And you can see those layers of volcanic eruptions that occurred in those days.
Yes.
To produce that kind of a very rare geological phenomenon with those lateritic areas and interspaced with the very high diversity vegetation. So that itself is very fascinating.
Okay.
And for me, the Tatas have been fascinating because one was the tunnels that you talked about that they created. But the other was that this was the first set of tail race dams created, where you had actually gravity creating the electricity rather than just the dam height.
Yes.
And how he had gone to Germany and US and found the right person to come and build the first Valvan dam, which at that time was the second longest dam in the world.
Wow.
And how Bombay was transformed by that and cleaned up.
Right.
The other interesting thing is, if you go through that tunnel after Khandala by car, and you turn left and you see Duke's Nose on your left side, that valley below there has got a very large number of endangered and endemic species, which were first researched by Father Santopo from St. Xavier's College. He was the botanist who later became the first Director General of Botany in India, of Botanical Survey of India.
Right.
So there are so many things. That whole region is full of history and very fascinating interlinked things, which perhaps that is one other angle for which you need a multidisciplinary team to write about railways and the vegetation, the ecology, and of course the historical background.
Yes.
But for me, it was, as a child, very fascinating to count the tunnels.
Yes.
Going by Deccan Queen with those big apartments. And later on, for many years, I had to go to Bombay Natural History Society. And every time I went through the Ghats in that Deccan Queen for this meeting and come back was an experience. And it was a fascinating experience.
Dr. Barucha, do you remember when you went by Deccan Queen, a river came on your right, which was at Kamshet?
Yes, very much so.
At the end of the river, there was a railway line going on the right side. Do you remember that?
Right. That's right.
That track, it's a rail car which runs from that Kamshet to the Shirota Dam at the back.
Shirota,
so Shirota and both, so that's also, if you talk of Valvan, you have to also talk of Shirota.
Yes,
and there is a tunnel between Valvan and Shirota which takes the water.
I walked through a bit of it. It's full of bats and it's a very fascinating tunnel.
Fantastic. We'll talk about tunnels in the bat later on in another presentation and a railway tunnel of that. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
And just for yesterday, a very short interjection.
Yes, sir.
I drove out of Jahangir Hospital with my daughter and my 10-year-old grandson. And my daughter was telling my grandson, you know, when I was a kid your age, I was brought to this bridge. The car would be parked on the top of this bridge and I would be shown the trains.
Correct. Yeah.
Nobody can park there anymore.
Nobody can. But my mother also took me there. She said, "Okay, dekho train. This is very."
Train dekho.
Yeah. And that was entertainment for us. I mean, and
Yes.
I am very grateful to my mother that she thought that, okay, this is what this guy wants. Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. It's been
Thank you,
very nice evening.
Let me just take the other questions very quickly.
Thanks, sir.
Or do you want to stop it at this? I mean, it's already quarter to
You
9.
can do
Yes, yeah,
quickly.
okay. Quick, yeah, a few questions. So, Rajendra Saxena, he's an ex-railway man. He was a chief engineer, civil engineer of Western Railways. The length between Nagnath and Thakurwadi, it's a service tunnel, maybe 300 meters. You have to walk through it. There's nothing else you can do through it. So that's about 300 meters. And Narendra Karambe, correct.
Yeah, Apurva, can I make a short comment?
Yes, sir. Boliye.
Every time I have started attending GyanPedia,
Yes.
I am developing an inferiority complex.
Nice, sir.
because the more I learn, the more I know how speck of a dust I am.
No. But that is the purpose of this group, not for us to collect the knowledge together and share it with each other. Okay.
But it has a depressing effect on me now.
No,
I feel
absolutely
like,
not.
oh my God, I know nothing.
Yeah. That happens when I listen to people like Ashish Kuelkar and वो उसका मुंह खुल गया तो अपन बोलते हैं यार अपने तो कुछ नहीं आता. It's like that. So like that. Anyway, so Narendra Karambekar has asked whether the cable tunnel is not AC. No, it is not, because the Thakurwadi substation has been demolished. As I told you, electrical engineering says W is equal to VI. So for the same voltage, if you increase the voltage, the current reduces. So earlier on, the problem was the line drop because you were carrying 1500 volts DC. So your amperage used to be 2000, 3000. So the line loss used to be very high. But now with 25,000 volts, the line current is maybe 80, 90 amperes. It's very low for each locomotive for getting the same wattage, for achieving the same HP. So the Thakurwadi cabin has been, the substation has been demolished. And you have a substation near Khandala, just near the express highway. As you come down from out of the tunnel, you can see the substation there. And that's the one which powers all the way down to Karjat. I think that's, if I'm right. But that high voltage cables don't come through the tunnel. So that's the answer to your question. And do these engine locos have full bathroom? Absolutely not. The new ones have a urinal. And what the crew do is, as soon as the train stops, one of them goes into the guards loop. That's the first coach. And
do they have air conditioning in the
new ones have got air conditioning. The new ones have got air conditioning. So because their power ka koi shortage nahi hai, so putting an AC is hardly the problem. Why do long trains with long loads versus trains with smaller loads not requiring many engines? What is the duty cycle of the train tracks? Why not do instead of cocoa trains? Ye kaun hai? Sanjay sir, if you can actually talk to me what this is. Why do long trains have long loads versus small? It depends on what you're carrying. I mean, yes. What was your question?
My question was, like it's happening in the satellite world, right? Previously, there would be a large rocket, and then 80, 90 satellite payloads would be lined up before the rocket could take off.
Yes.
And every time I look at a long train with multiple engines, I feel like, why not have just one engine, and kind of it's kind of a distributed way of sending the load, rather than having one, huge train with a lot of engines. Why not have one engine and smaller loads? So that
the track capacity. If I take multiple trains, I have to keep 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers between two trains. So I actually congest. So it makes more sense to run longer trains. If you've heard of the term Python and Super Python and Sheshnag, these are the trains which are run in block. Instead of one train, they'll couple 3 trains and send it together. That is being done. If you just look at your YouTube and find Python rakes in India. So they're doing the opposite. They're combining multiple trains and running it in the same path. So
Apurva, I think the answer lies in the fact that there are only a train, there are what is called as a block section.
Yes.
So Palasdari to Thakurwadi is one block section. So unless a train reaches Thakurwadi, another train cannot start for safety reasons.
So the 2 kilometers is wrong. It is more like 7-8 kilometers between two trains. So if you make smaller trains, that's going to happen. So generally these long trains have the same source and destination. That concept of shunting is gone now. The entire train goes from one place to another, and it is probably containerized, and then it goes into things. So railways doesn't have any shortage of business. They cannot provide enough rakes for the freights. So they are happy. If you say कि मेरे को एक wagon चाहिए, they'll say नहीं दे सकते. आप पूरा train ले रहे हैं, but before you there are cement guys, there are steel guys who want, they are even willing to buy their own wagons. Just run them and make them available. Take them from one place to another. Make them. So I think with the dedicated freight corridors and all those things will improve. But the fact is, we should have a session of railway gappa. That's going to be one fascinating thing.
Apurva, can you take one or two last questions?
Yes, sir, I will do that. So Mustafa sir is asking, when all the loads will be in compression, how is the buckling of the train controlled? It is rolling. So, and if the front locomotive starts braking, the guy at the rear sees it on his gauge that the pressure is dropping. So he also notches down. So it doesn't buckle, and that's weight. You see, each wagon is a lot of weight, and it's a rolling friction. So these things don't buckle, but like I showed you, that 4-wheeler brake van, that could buckle. It won't buckle in the sense it won't twist out of shape, but it could derail because it's being pushed from the back and it has a very heavy load in the front. So it's like a weak joint between the two things.
Apurva, there are two quick questions and then you can end. One is by Dipesh Soni.
Yeah.
I heard about the grave of William Favell at Bhor Ghat.
Yes.
Where exactly it is located? And the second question is, you don't know?
No, I haven't found. There are graves of other people which Ashish and I had located, but Ashish hota kare, there was a grave of William Favell? Nahin, na? Is Ashish there? No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Because we went to the graveyard that Ashish only discovered somewhere on the top of the mountain. So it's there.
One more is there. Sachit Rajesh.
Yes.
My question is, why are WAP5S not allowed to enter the Bhor Ghat? Any idea? Also, could you do a session like this on any section in KR, Konkan Railway, if possible?
Certainly, we'll do. You will see a presentation about Konkan Railway on this forum itself and other things. And what is the WAP5S? I don't know what that is.
No, there was some wheel slip problems even in the Kalyan Kasara section. They were facing some wheel slips.
Yes.
So that could be the reason, but we are not sure.
Why are you talking about Kalyan Kasara section? I'm talking about level section. Nagpur to some place. Wahan bhi that loco used to stall. WAG 9s have a wheel slip problem. And
no, WAP5.
WAP5. Okay, but WAP5 is only 80 tons. Although it can haul 24 coach because of its electronics and electronic drive and all that. But I mean, WAP5s do work a lot of trains through the ghats, don't they?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I think it has. Shall we say goodbye or
absolutely? It'll never stop.
Yeah, aisa hai subject ke railways. When you stand at the side of a railway track and you see a train, you're going to stop and say, "Hey, railway dekhenge." Everybody gets excited.
Yes.
And after you giving your sessions on the railways, I have been a regular rail fan on YouTube. And I follow this guy from Pakistan, Sights and Sounds. Yeah. And the railway system in Pakistan is maybe 30 years behind India. Yeah. But the way those rail fans are crazy and they go and they do so much, it's really nice to see that. And Sandhi, any last words? I think you can say the vote of to Apurva on behalf of Gyan.
I think, as usual, a dazzling performance from Apurva. I don't know how many sessions it would take, maybe forever, for Apurva to download all his knowledge to our brains. And next time, I have already written to him. Next time, I'm ready to walk the 27 kilometers with him. I'm now the now the love has gone in my head.
Yes.
So I'm going to do, and I'm sure you will be talking to me for the entire line, because I'll be asking you billions of questions.
Certainly.
Next time next time at a train, I'm going to decode all this WCAC, WC5, all of that. I'll be trained by them by the time I come to you. But to be honest with you, every session that I have had here on Ganpedia, whether it is you or Mr. Barucha or anybody else, these are fascinating sections, and there is wholesomeness into every session, rather than some faltu gadbar that happens on so many other Zoom calls. This is the one that I look forward to, even if I have to get up with 5 hours sleep and get ready for 6:30.
Yes, sir.
So kudos to you for the vast amount of knowledge. It's fascinating, and I like how you present each slide with ecology, the reason behind dams. You explain everything in a slide, so it's just not thrown at us, but you provide excruciating details that creates the magic when you present. So thank you very much on behalf of Ganpedia. It's pleasure is mine every single Saturday.
Thank you, sir.
So thanks a lot, Apurva, and with your permission, I will close the session, and I hope you all enjoyed it. And when our invitations go out, please do join, and please donate to Nityasha Foundation. I had put my phone number down in the chat box. It has gone somewhere, but you can always go to nityasha.org or Gyanadab and talk to info@gyanadab.com or gyanadab.org. And please, if you know Apurva, you can message to him, or if you know Sandhi, and please donate to Nityasha Foundation. So Apurva, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sandhi. Most of our panelists have left, Ashok Saraf, everybody. But anyway, it was a good session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Thank you,
Good
everybody.
night. Good night. Bye.